All right, all right, all right. It is the 1st of November in the RL, in the real world, but you're working on week 15, November 13th. So you are 13 days in the future from this video. And in this video, in this week, we're going to do some, I feel like I'm a bit redundant, but some fun stuff. Because you're going to learn about higher order functions, and they're really valuable to have. We basically cover the one we've already been using, which is for each is a higher order function. We're going to cover filter, we're going to cover map, and we're going to cover reduce. And what this allows you to do is once you understand these structures, you can write much more efficient code to do something very, very common in code, which is to take a huge list, right, and filter that list or map over that list doing something, some kind of calculation, or reducing that list to some kind of singular calculation. In the example, in the code along, we'll end up doing also repeating what we've done with the async to get some of the post from that website we use for 14, and then use those higher order functions to implement those different HOFs, higher order functions, that I just mentioned. But the last one we'll use to determine what an average, I think we ended up with title, the body length was. So you'll turn around then in your discussion and do that same, and not the same, but use the one of those three to determine our average footprint. And I keep saying in that video when I go over the code alongs is the way I've used them, where I've actually used one filter, then I use map, and then I use reduce. You don't have to do that. It's much simpler. There's your hint. Okay? So, and I think the more challenging thing, honestly, about that code challenge or the discussion about determining footprint, the average footprint, is actually figuring out, because that's one of my requirements, is how to include that in the table. I learned something new. I'd seen it but never used it in JavaScript, where I can insert a row and then cells into a table that's already been rendered. That was fun. Anyway, I gave you some hints along the way. And then the last step, not the last step, to step 7, we have, well, actually it is final here, which I think will end up being our discussions. Here, we'll have to think about, we are close to the end, only 2 weeks at this point left, okay? But for step 7, we implement a class. And you know, I went through and I did this work, and I just did a short video to do it, but as I reflected on it now, it really did make me rewrite some of my logic. And it was good, because once you understand the benefit of using the class implementation for creating objects, it really is helpful because that is such a well-organized structure that some of the code that I needed I could strip out, because I could just reference the values inside of the instantiated object. So anyway, I'm just telling you, when I got there, I definitely got to take out some of my logic, but it made me rethink it, which was good. Okay, so here's what I want from you, though, on this week. At this point, I will have seen most of you. There may be still some people trying to get into my schedule before we move into Thanksgiving next week. But here's what I want. And some of you, we talked about this, but I actually now want you to please give my future students your suggestions on how to succeed in this class. Like, now that we're getting close to the end, you've gone through a code review, and if you want to specifically focus on the code review, that would be awesome. Because one of the things, and I have had a couple of you confirm this for me, is that I've seen is that if you're not taking, well, I don't want to prejudice your feedback. So let me just let you give me your feedback, and maybe next week I'll tell you some of the things I heard when going through the code reviews that students said it would have helped if they had done this or had done that. So now, if you would codify just means put in writing, the feedback, like what would you tell students coming into the spring course for this class? Because I'm probably going to keep the structure pretty much the same. I think the one code review I talked to another student had been when I had done 3 in the past, too many. One, also the way we've done the code alongs, the way we've done the code challenges, the discussions. It's like, what would you tell those students? Because your input is so valuable to me and to them, because when you get to the end of the class, you're or towards, in this case, towards the end of the class, you can really start reflecting on, and it definitely might be something you give me, like, here's Rio, here's something I would suggest you do differently, or here's what I wish I would have done differently to succeed in this class. Okay. So anyway, that feedback would be, if you don't feel comfortable giving that here and you want to give it to me directly, that's cool too. I just appreciate those of you who are at this point with me, and there is a good portion of you in this class. That's the other thing I'm really happy about, is this is going to be the highest success rate I've had in programming, a programming class. So I'm like, okay, how do I capitalize on this for the next semester? And I definitely feel like for those of you that went to see Zach, you definitely benefited from that. And I felt like there was a whole other group that came to see me, and I hope you benefited from that. But anyway, reflect on that. Let's see that list, if you would mind giving it to me. All right, so as we roll in to the last 2 weeks, I believe next week is Thanksgiving. So we'll have an abbreviated week. I must have already accounted for that, right? Anyway, we only have 2 weeks left, whichever way it goes. And our decision final will be here. I did have you set up some items, some things you'd probably like to add. We call it a to-do list to your code, to think about things you might want to add to your code base. All right, talk to you later. Please reply with that.